How you doing? This is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and today I'm teaming up with Garrett from DIY Sportsman.
Hey everyone.
And we're going to give you a list of 10 tips to help you be successful hunting public land. So here's tip number 1. Usually there are designated parking areas on public land. Sometimes they're very large parking areas. And that's where most people park. However, if they permit you to park in other areas, now some places will not, but if they do, I like to look, drive about a half a mile away, a quarter mile away, and look for little pull-offs where I can get my car off the road and go in those areas. Because what happens is, everybody going in and out of the woods in the same area right by those main parking areas, the deer get onto that and they reroute their travel patterns. And if you can set up on the edge of where they're rerouting, you could have deer right in your lap. Here is an example of what I mean. So here is a parking area on public hunting land, and right down the road here, you can see on both sides of the road you can't really park here, but as you get down the road about a quarter mile away through this bend, there's an area right here where you can pull off and park, or even right here. Pull off right in here, slip up into the woods, and cut over there, and the deer that will be pushed by those other hunters will be traveling across the woods, and you can intercept them over there.
Tip number 2 for hunting public land would be to not get too emotionally attached on one certain area or one certain spot. I'll give an example of a public marsh that I used to hunt quite a bit when I was growing up. I found this spot that was pretty overlooked by a lot of other hunters. It was a nice doe bedding area, had a lot of sign in it, and then had buck beds not too far away. It was a spot that I would see does in early season, and then come the rut in one particular year, I shot one of my best public land bucks in there. And then in the years following, I would always think, if I had one particular evening that I could hunt out of a weekend, I want to hunt in the very best chance spot that I have. And so I would always seem to come back to that one spot. And it got to the point where I would go into that spot, not see anything, the sign would be getting kind of old. And 2 weeks later, I think, well, maybe this time the deer are going to be moving through there again. Maybe this time it's going to be like last time, because it has to be, right? When in reality, each time I went in there, I was just getting my scent in there, making it less likely that those deer are going to start moving through that area again. And in reality, at that point, it would have been better for me to just abandon that spot altogether and go find some fresh sign to hunt on.
Tip number 3. Now where I live, there is a lot of public hunting land. And so what I like to do is pick out a tree stand location for each time I want to go hunt that year. What I mean is, if I want, I can hunt one stand one time and never have to revisit it throughout the season. And what that does is it gives me a lot of fresh stands where I'm not ruining spots because the deer are catching on to me and getting spooked and things like that. The first time in the stand is always your best chance to kill. So I like to have as many tree stand locations picked out in advance as I plan to hunt that year.
Tip number 4 is really going to apply if you're hunting a very large piece of land or it's one that's very hard to get around in. And that tip would be to look at ways that you can lighten your pack load and look at ways that you can get into better shape. We all know that you don't need to be in great shape to be a successful deer hunter, and that's especially true when you're hunting whitetails in the Midwest. But I will say this, there's going to be times when you're forced to choose between, do I go to spot A or do I go to spot B today? And you might know in the back of your mind that spot B is really the spot that you should be on that day, but it might require 90% of your effort versus 50% of your effort for spot A. And you can have the mental toughness to get over that and just get back into spot B, but you might be more miserable doing it. And by lightening your pack load and getting into better shape, you're essentially making it less miserable to get into some of those harder to get to spots and really get into those spots that a lot of other guys don't have the mental toughness to get to.
Tip number 5, and I've mentioned this before, but even on days that I cannot go out hunting, I like to try to drive past some of my hunting spots and see if anyone else is parked there. There are sometimes you'll see several cars in a parking area and then you'll go to another and there's none. That lets you know what areas are getting the most pressure and you can avoid those areas when you're planning the next time you can get out there hunting. Another option too would be, even if you can't drive past your spots, it'd be have a friend or family member take a ride for you. Just, if they're going to the store, say, hey, do you mind swinging past this spot of mine and let me know if you see any cars parked there, stuff like that. So there you have the first 5 tips. For the other 5, head over to Garrett's channel There'll be a link for that in the description section of this video. And if you're not already a subscriber to our channels, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, take care, God bless, and thanks for tuning in.